Alright, so I want to show you guys how to do a column chromatography, which is going to be used to separate components of a mixture. What you would do first is do a TLC of your mixture and make sure that you get a solvent that separates things out pretty well. So this is just something I just made up, it's food dyes, but here's a TLC that I did of it, and it's this stuff. You can see purple, so that purple is made up of a pink and a blue. So here's the TLC, and the pink and the blue are separating pretty well, so I think I'm going to use this just to show you. So TLCs are on a plate of silica gel, so we're going to do a column of silica and gel instead, and that'll do basically the same principles that are going on in the TLC. So here's a column, and the first step will be to add a bunch of silica gel to it. So get a funnel, and let's first just add a whole bunch. And I've just said that something like six inches high, roughly, something like that is probably okay. Then let's dump that into a mire. Okay, so then you would have made up a whole bunch of your TLC solvent, and so Dave made up a bunch for me, and so just get a whole bunch of that ready. I don't know if that's enough. So then you're going to pour this in and make a slurry of the silica gel and your solvent, and it gets kind of chunky there. You do want it to move around quite a bit, so add enough that it'll move when you swirl it. And where's my little stir rod? I feel like it's kind of caked on there. Also, you're going to notice it gives off some heat. It sometimes bubbles quite a bit. So I feel like that is still a little too chunky. I mean, it's not too bad, but let me give it a little more solvent. I don't think you'll really ruin it if you add too much. I think too little is probably bad. Too much, probably not too bad. Okay, I'm good with that. Okay, so then the next step is going to be, let me get some solvent ready. Next step is going to be putting that on the column. I'm going to talk you through this first, because this next step you should do somewhat quickly. So get some solvent ready. So you might get a whole bunch. Okay, so get some solvent ready, and then what you'll do is you're gonna swirl this, swirl, pour it in there real quick, and then it's all gonna drop down. Okay, and this is the one step that people typically try to be too careful, because I know, chemistry, you try to be like, oh, just pour it in really carefully. This is the one step you don't want to do it carefully. You actually want to go swirl, dump, like get it in there real quick. Also, when you dump, this kind of creates a seal, so you might want to lift that up a little bit, dump it in there, right? And then when you dump it in, the solvent is going to start evaporating away, and so it can kind of just leave a whole bunch of residual silica all on there. So you're going to dump it, and then you're going to right away start rinsing the sides down so that the silica gel all goes down. Okay, so we ready? This is actual proper technique to to dump it really quick. Ready? Here we go. Dump. If you like, you don't have too much left here, but you can rinse with a little bit. Try to get more out. Dump. Okay. All right, and now the quick step. So all that stuff will evaporate and kind of stick on there. So, quickly, we want to rinse it all down. All right, so let's say I rinsed all that down, and most of it is kind of down here. Then you can open this up, and And then we want to sort of start packing this column. You do want to whack at it a little bit too. There might be little air bubbles that are stuck in there. You do want to try to get the air bubbles out, have it all settle down. Okay, so then we want to kind of squish it together to pack it. And it's dripping, it does drip somewhat, but we can use pressure to really force it down and kind of compress it together. So connect this on the air. And you can adjust it over here if it's too strong. You know, you could tighten it up or loosen it. But if we stick this on here, and you look, it's probably going to drip out quicker, right? You see how it's going a little bit faster. So we're using a bit of pressure to compress it. So that is packing the column and you know, just kind of getting the column ready. Next though would be to add a little bit of sand to this. So this layer here really needs to be flat for the separation to work out right. And so we add some sand to basically protect that top layer to keep it level. So you're going to add some sand. It doesn't really matter how much sand, just some, you know. There's all this sand on the sides, so I'm going to rinse down the sides just to get all the sand down onto the silica. When you're doing the rinsing, you do also want to rinse it down the sides of the glass. So you wouldn't want to shoot it down, you know, because then the liquid could kind of puncture a hole in this top layer. So we do want that to be pretty flat. Ready? Now we would want to add our substance to it, but all this up here would just dilute the thing that you add on it. So next you want to drop this liquid layer down to the top of the column. So let's use some pressure just to speed it up. Push all that stuff down. You do want to be sure that once you got your column ready, that this whole column should always be wet. So you should never allow this liquid layer to go below the sand. Okay, I'm stopping. Okay, so when you do that, then shut this off, or otherwise it'll keep dripping. So basically when you start seeing the sand, you know, kind of get dry, then you want to stop it. Great, so I think now we're ready to stick our stuff on there. So here would be this food dye stuff the purple stuff that I'm going to try to separate on this. If it's a liquid, you just add it directly. If you have a solid, like let's say I had this kind of solid that I wanted to use on this, you would try to dissolve it in a little bit of the same solvent that you use for the column. But you'd want to test it out. If it doesn't dissolve in that solvent, then you can't really use it. What you then use instead is a little bit of dichloromethane, little bits, like not much. You know, try to make it like that much liquid, just barely dissolved. So that's what we're going to do for the ferrocene lab, is a tiny little bit of dichloromethane, and then that will go on. Okay, so here's my food dyes. So I'm going to drip this on here. You don't want to drip it down the sides. And this time we want to try to drip it like directly onto the sand and gently. You don't want to squirt it on there because then you make a little indent in the column. And we're going to try to not get it down the sides, but I bet I will. But let's see if I can not. So I'm going to try to gently get it like right directly on the sand. Just drip it down, trying not to splash on the sides or rinse it down the sides. Ooh, that's so pretty, isn't it? Okay. If you like, you could rinse with a tiny little bit of solvent. Try to get it all on there. Don't use too much though. You really don't need to get all of it on there. Just, you know. Ooh, that's so pretty. It's so pretty. Okay, so then, now we want to try to push this onto the column just a little bit. So push that on just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to stop. And now I want to rinse just a bit on the side because some of it did splash up. So let's give it just a little rinse to make sure all of it is going to go on the column. And now I'm going to rinse down the sides, still trying to be careful that I'm not you know, squirting it directly on where I might cause a divot. That's probably good enough, I think. Not too much, just a little bit for a rinse. So let's push it down again. Just that extra little stuff that I might have rinsed. Let's try to push it on the column. Again, man, this is slow. So I could up the air a little bit. Stopping. So always stopping like right there. Never letting the liquid layer go way down. Okay, so now all this stuff should be on the column. Now I just need a whole bunch of liquid here. So at first, when I add liquid, I've got to be kind of gentle because I don't want to disrupt that top layer. And at some point, when you've got enough liquid there, you're going to feel like you could pour it a little quicker, but you won't ruin that layer. So that's kind of a judgment call when you feel like you're not going to disrupt it. Let's say now, let's try it. So I'm going to try to be a little gentle, dripping it down the sides. Kind of gently. I'm not messing it up, am I, Dave?
Nope.
I don't think so. So then I'm okay. Dave, are you kind of seeing how I'm doing this on the side?
I am now.
Okay. You see? So not just like pouring it in, streaming it in, but dribbling it down the sides. Okay. And I can pour it kind of quicker when I know I'm not going to ruin that layer. You could fill this whole thing up. I don't know how much I'm going to use, so I'm just going to do some just to have some there. Okay. All right. So now I think we'd be ready to start, you know, running the column basically. If the stuff that you're looking for is not colored, then you kind of have no idea when it's coming out. So you'll want to start collecting it right away because you have no idea when it's coming out. If it was colorless, is that what I said? Colorless. So we would position like a, you know, test tube rack underneath this, and we just start collecting it into test tubes. And when it fills, you move to the next one, right? This, though, fortunately, is colored, so I kind of know that nothing's happening right now. So I can just, you know, start streaming this stuff out and waiting for something that's colored to make its way towards the bottom. Should be noticing a separation of colors. We started out purple, but we're seeing pink and blue. And if I get the TLC, this is my TLC. I had pink. Basically, it's like an upside down TLC plate, right? So the pink is going first, or fastest, and the blue's lagging behind. If this works out great, I'll get a little gap between the pink and the blue, and I'd be able to separate the pink into one container and the blue in a different one. That's sort of the goal. So again, if this was not colored, you wouldn't be able to see what was going on. You would be collecting it already because you'd have no idea when it's coming out. And for this, since I know there's only pink and a blue there, I can wait until the pink gets pretty near the bottom before I start collecting it. I think I'd call that close. Okay, so now, whoop, don't trip. Now I want to actually start collecting it. So let's put a bunch of, hey Tony.
That's pretty.
It is pretty, isn't it? Okay, so I've got to raise this up. Tony had a cameo. Alright, so then just into the first tube. Now we can start. So let's start collecting. We'll just kind of stream it in. Eventually that pink stuff's going to start coming out. This also, whether you use big or small test tubes, really depends on how much stuff you have. Like here would be a smaller test tube rack if you had tinier quantities, I think. You know, so it's just kind of is a judgment call of whether you use big or small test tubes. You also don't have to fill them all up completely. Like let's say, I want to switch it. Okay, I'll switch it over. Start collecting in the next tube, you know? And the point here is we're trying to separate pink from blue, so smaller quantities can be good, right? Because what if, you know, eventually here you get purple where they're both overlapping. You know, if you've switched the test tubes enough, you'd be able to kind of, you know, throw away the ones where they overlapped. I'm going to switch it again. Judgment call. So I think for our ferrocene lab, you're going to get, you know, a really good separation. So you probably can just fill up the tubes and just collect all of the one color. And then you're probably going to get like a clear coming out where nothing's there. And then, you know, so here I'm just deciding to switch it because I think, you know, it looks like there's not a great separation between the pink and the blue. Okay, here's another thing to look at. So Dave, I was strumming along, just doing my thing, and then look up here. I'm getting really close, right? So it's easy when you're doing all that to forget that you can't let this go below that level. So when it gets close, you do have to fill it up, right? So let me do a little bit of that. All right, keep going. It's already starting to come out. I'm going to do one more. Switch it. And if you cared about the blue one, then of course you'd keep going and collect the blue. If you cared only about the pink one, you probably wouldn't even have to do all this. You don't have to get all that stuff off if you don't want it. So it just sort of depends on what you want. Let's call it good. Okay, so now we've got separation, right? Somewhat. So pinkish, and again looking at the TLC plate, pink came out first, and then we've got some blue, and I think that's purple. What do you think, Dave?
Looks pretty purple to me.
Looks purple to me, which probably means there wasn't a great separation and they started coming out together. If we cared about the pink one, we would want to take the pink ones, right? And like kind of collect them together. But what about that one? Should we take it or should we not? I don't know. So what you would do is you would do TLC of each of these and run them side by side and see, is there really blue in there? If there is, you don't want it. You would throw it away. And you would only take the ones that are pink.